What's up, basement dwellers? Welcome to another edition of the Jersey Fanatics. I'm Chris the Dace Man Dace, and joined again with Erik Berezzo.
What day is it?
That is a good question, but it's Wednesday, November. Okay, so just realized what could be happening today.
Yeah.
But we're recording this October 29th, so if there's a country and podcast still available, we are here live. Day after election. And by here, I mean I'm safely in Costa Rica. Phrase I never thought I'd be able to say. Erik,
I'll be here.
You're in between, hot points, we'll say.
Yeah, this ain't a great place to live after an election.
No. I mean, it's a very blue place to live, but, it's, not the great, if you have military points to attack in America, we're in the middle of a triangle. Well, you are. I'm in Costa Rica. You can't tell, but Costa Rica's happening behind me right now.
I see all the palm trees behind you. I get it.
Yeah, and they're like weird time. They don't celebrate daylight savings time, so that's why I'm all wonky and all kinds of weird shit here in Costa Rica. And since I'm in Costa Rica, in honor of it, we're going to be talking about a Phanatic Phocus today on Zack Wheeler, someone who's probably born the furthest away from Costa Rica when it comes to players in the Major League Baseball. First and foremost, he's 34. I aged well. I don't feel like he has. He's got all that gray going on in his beard, and he's...
Yeah, we don't have that going yet.
Yeah, that's why we wear hats, and we have all our hair. I feel like he's balding. He always shaves it close, but that's usually a sign of
Yeah, if I take off the hat, there's starting to get some balding back here. It's a little upsetting.
I guess to be fair to Zach, if I take off the hat, there's a lot of gray, which I think you saw last week's episode, which was recorded last night. It's such a weird time thing happening right now. But we're gonna do a Phanatic Phocus on Zack Wheeler since time is we're in the off season. The World Series has ended. Can't believe that happened with that team that did that amazing thing in the sweep/comeback that no one expected.
Oh, yeah, I know. It was mind-blowing. Holy shit. Did you see that Game 7? Wow.
Fucking phenomenal. Big Papi, MVP of the World Series. Where that came from, nobody called it anywhere. So, I mean, we'll do two takes. Ready? I can't believe the Dodgers won. Oh, my God, it's phenomenal. And if they didn't win...
Yay, Shohei, Japan!
Yay, Freddie Freeman, the World Series MVP. I can't believe it. Oh, and now... Oh, my God, the Yankees came back. That's phenomenal.
2004 Red Sox all over again. Oh, my God.
Fucking crazy that, Derek Jeter was the World Series MVP. Wasn't Aaron Judge. That is one thing that will be consistent in either way that series goes. He sucks.
Yeah. Unless he turns it on tonight.
And by tonight, we mean he was the MVP of the World Series now.
Yep.
You called it. There you go. Breaking news. 3 days, 4 days, probably 5 days after the World Series ended. You're welcome.
Put your money on Aaron Judge winning the MVP starting on Tuesday.
Yeah. Make a bet now. Chicago White Sox win the 2024 World Series. We're calling it. Because we are definitely not recording too early. But we're going to talk about Zack Wheeler today and do a Phanatic Phocus because it is it's a pre-record, which we're doing a week in advance. Usually we try to do with the episode the night before it drops. And it's the off season, so we're probably going to do a lot more of these Phanatic Focuses. And we decided to choose Zack Wheeler because he is in Cy Young contention. I don't know. They were not going to announce the Cy Young by this point, are they?
I think they normally announce it between Game 4 and 5, so that ain't gonna happen. So they're probably just gonna wait till after the Dodgers sweep or the Yankees come back. Oh my God,
it's phenomenal! And oh my God, Zack Wheeler, Cy Young for 2024, or not, Chris Sale. I don't know. We picked I didn't pick the time, but I'm in Costa Rica at a bad time. That, all kinds of breaking news and things that could be talked about. President Trump, President Harris, World Series, Yankees winners, Dodgers winners.
The first man.
I'll tell you what, that episode of Saturday Night Live was phenomenal. The one before the election day. We'll have a hell of an episode next week, that's for sure. When I come back and say, hey, the 2 weeks in between our recordings, let's talk about everything everybody's already talked about. So,
Yep.
but we're going to talk Zack Wheeler on our Phanatic Phocus today because he kind of got snubbed for the Cy Young in 2022. And unfortunately, I don't think he gets it this year. And if it was announced, he probably didn't get it. Just because Chris Sale had such a weird, phenomenal year. Even though I don't think he's Cy Young caliber. He wasn't there when the team needed him. So
the dude's like, you know what? I can't handle it. I can't pitch this start because we're going against the Phillies. I can't do it. Dude, you bowed out. Get the fuck out.
Bailed out of that and then bailed out of the doubleheader that you needed to get into the series. Like, that to me is like, okay, buddy. Yeah, Cy Young is an individual achievement, but Cy Young caliber players are going to go get their team into the playoffs. And Zack Wheeler is that. One of the gems of the NLDS was Zack Wheeler for 7 innings that made us feel like we were going to go all the way up until we didn't. But yeah, he joined the Philadelphia Phillies in 2020. To your point before we started recording, he signed in 2019.
Merry Christmas.
It was a Christmas gift, one of those off-season moves that we got. And unfortunately, his first year was the shortened 2020 season, and his was even shortened more so because of a fingernail injury. So,
I miss you, COVID.
I miss shelter in place, which could be happening right now. Who knows?
That's why I'm recording from my basement. And you're recording from Costa Rica.
From Costa Rica.
The world is ending.
The weird thing where, like, you know, people migrate to Costa Rica rather than Costa Rica trying to migrate to America.
Yeah.
Donald Trump did it. He deported me. It happened. I'm gone. I don't know if, like, I blend in down here.
No, you're going to stick out like a sore thumb, but it's all right.
It feels like home, as if I'm in my bedroom right now. But Zack Wheeler signed in December 2019. He missed part of the shortened season of 2020 with that fingernail injury, but in 2021 became the 3rd pitcher in franchise history to strike out 10 or more batters in 3 consecutive starts. So when we made that signing, I think it was kind of a gamble because we'll get into the conversation, but let's talk about the fact when we signed Zack Wheeler. What were your thoughts on that? Can you remember that far back? Because honestly, I don't remember signing him.
Well, let's go back a little bit further, though. Let's go back to where the Mets actually screwed him over. So
That's fair.
He was pretty damn good for the Mets, but unfortunately he ended up getting injured. He had that Tommy John surgery, or the ulnar, or whatever the hell they want to call it, but basically Tommy John surgery. Mm-hmm. So then he missed the whole year when they actually went to the World Series, and the fucking owner ended up making him buy his own tickets so he can see his own team play in the playoffs and the World Series. Like, okay, dude, you really fucked up there. And then you're going to ask him to come back, and then he missed the following year.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, you know what? We're just going to let you go. Like, we're not going to re-sign you, like, whatever. And then I believe they did give him like a 1 year, or they had 1 year left, whatever it was. There was something weird about that contract.
He played for the Mets for 2013, 2014, and then in spring training in 2015 is when he got the injury that kind of kept him out for 15 and 16. He would stay with the Mets through 17 and 19.
Okay, so he came back for those 2 years, and he was pretty good.
He signed a 1 year deal in 2017 for $800,000 with the Mets to avoid the arbitration.
And that contract that he signed with us was a lot more than $800,000.
Yeah.
But it's just so that was starting the downfall of where he didn't really want to be with the Mets anymore because, of course, he felt like he was spurned by them. You know, if he had to buy his own tickets and he had to still show up to do rehab and everything like that, and the owner's telling you, nah, dude, we're not going to help you out with that. You got to buy your own tickets. So, okay. So he started saying, I'm not coming back. And then he started to put his name out there on the free agent list. And I really didn't think we had any chance or even any interest in him at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there was no reports, there was no rumors. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, because normally these people sign late. they signed right before spring training, and he signed before the new year end, or yeah, the new year started.
Yep.
So he signed in December, and all of a sudden you're like, holy shit, what just happened?
So he for his 2017 season, he went 3-7 with an ERA of 5.21. He actually started the 2018 season, even though he was healthy, in Vegas because the All-Star Jason Vargas was kind of pushing him out of the lineup. But he would end up coming to the Mets lineup after Vargas went out because he was put on the disabled list. And the strong performance against the Nationals on April 18th demonstrated Wheeler's ability to remain in the major league rotation. So he was pitching particularly dominant after the All-Star break. In 2018, he went 12 for 7 with a 3.31 ERA and a 1.12 whip in 29 starts. So, as he was set to become a free agent at the end of 2019, the rumors were that the Mets were going to try to trade Wheeler before the deadline, but they instead elected to retain him. And the then general manager, Brody Van Wagenen, say his name right? Probably not.
He didn't last much longer after that.
Nah, he was telling reporters that, quote, "We think he's a good pitcher. We have invested in him being a Met for the long term." That obviously didn't pan out. So as with the previous seasons, Wheeler improved to the second half of 2019 after going to the All-Star break with a 4.69 ERA. He only allowed one earned run in each of his final 5 starts. Wheeler also set career highs in innings pitched with 195 at a third and strikeouts with 195. He finished the season with 11-8 record, a 3.96 ERA, and 31 starts. So he entered free agency after that, and the big sticking point I think we should talk about is the fact that the Mets went to the World Series in 2016 and did not invite him to see it. They made him buy his own ticket. So he had a bad taste in his mouth with the Mets organization, it seems like, the entire time he was there.
Yeah. They kept on toying around with him, and they had a good rotation, but they just kept, there was no 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Mm-hmm. There was always like whoever was available because their starting rotation, everyone was DeGrom, you had Waka, you had Wheeler, like you had all these high power, high throwing pitchers, but they couldn't stay healthy. And it was a massive gamble when we took him because, like I just said, he was very injury prone. And, mm-hmm. you know, apparently he had some fingernail issue too that you just talked about in 2020. And I remember the whole entire season, they were saying that you got to glue the fingernail on, you got to do this, you got to do that. You have to make sure that he ends up going to get a manicure before each game. Like, it was the weirdest freaking conversations, but you didn't have much else to talk about back then. But
like, that was a unique season.
Yeah, just everything that happened then, and it was just very quiet, very fast. You didn't really expect him to sign here, but he did, which was awesome, absolutely phenomenal. And then you started to get hope that the Phillies are going to turn this around and they're going in the right direction. And he was one of the key pieces that really propelled the organization forward.
He was drafted in the 2009 MLB draft, 6th overall by the San Francisco Giants. And he elected to sign with the team rather than honor his previous college baseball commitment to Kennesaw State, because fuck Georgia, that's why. Wheeler played for the Giants minor leagues in 2010 and 2011 before being traded to the Mets in 2011, which basically, like I said, he rose through the ranks then, making his debut in 2013. So the Phillies ended up signing him in 2019, that December. A quick sign, relatively, for the Phillies, because usually, Don Browski wasn't there at that point. This was a Clentac? Not Clentac. Yeah. It was a Clentac signing. One of the few, he got you Harper and he got you Wheeler. So, I mean, he did some good things, I guess, on his way out. But on December 9th, 2019, the Phillies signed Wheeler as a free agent to a 5-year, $118 million contract. And I just want to say this started a precedent that I hate the Phillies for, because they would give another 5-year deal to a Met that we all fucking hate and have been talking about for the last couple episodes of the Jersey Fanatics, which really make us Jersey bullies, because fuck Taijuan Walker. You think you can catch lightning in a bottle twice? Absolutely not.
91% of people hate Taijuan Walker. All right, there's 9% that love him.
Yeah, it's the Mets that got rid of him because they knew what the hell was happening. And Taijuan. He made his team debut with the Phillies. We'll talk about Wheeler again. In a 7-1 victory against the Miami Marlins on July 25th, 2020. So I think when we signed him, the mentality was he was our number 2. Nola was our number 1. For whatever reason, this organization has always had faith in him after our prodigal son, Cole Hamels, left. Nola was the guy that was going to step up and be our homegrown ace. And I think the dynamic with Wheeler over the years, and 2020 is a bad season to say, like, you knew he was going to be a stud, but Wheeler kind of taking over that number 1 role and bumping Aaron to 2. It was a weird dynamic because again he was a homegrown Met who just now became he's a Philly icon now. I don't think there's anyone hard pressed in Philly to say they don't like Zack Wheeler.
We found out on our last week's episode that I think 1.3% or something like that, some really low number wants to get rid of him, which is insane to me. But yeah, it was like once when he came here and he was able to stay healthy for that season, you really, like, not the 2021 season, you started to see exactly what he could do. And I believe, was it 2022 when he took over as opening day starter?
Yes, because
That was Aaron Nola's, like, for the last 7 years or something. Like, it was like a record.
Yeah, I think it was Aaron actually couldn't start or something. Like, I think Aaron was like not ready, or I don't think he was injured, but I don't think he was ready for opening day because it was that debate back and forth.
Yeah.
And then Wheeler kind of stepped in, and at that point, Wheeler just kind of closed the door in the conversation of who's opening.
I mean, I still don't believe that. I don't think that he was actually injured. I think it was
his ego was.
Knew. I think everyone knew that Wheeler was the best option to do and the best to throw out there.
And the crazy thing is, even in the shortened pandemic season, he did have a 4-2 record with a 2.92 ERA in 11 games and a 71 innings. The only bad stat he had is he led the NL in batters hit by pitch with 7. He was also the first pitchers in Phillies history to allow 3 or fewer runs in each of his first 10 starts with the team, and he only allowed 3 home runs, the fewest of any pitcher in 2020 who pitched at least 70 innings. So he had a good 2020, even though we had to sit there and deal with the fingernail issue. And apparently he returned to the pitching rotation with a fake fingernail and then had surgery for it in October 12th. But 2021, he debuted on April 3rd. He struck out 10 batters in 7 innings, and in the first time he recorded a double-digit number of strikeouts with the Phillies. Additionally, he became the first Phillies pitcher to have 2 or more hits and RBIs in a single game since Ben Lively in 2017. And basically, at that point, Wheeler was full-born forward. He was named a finalist for the 2021 NL Gold Glove Award as a pitcher, which was unfortunately won by Max Fried. And he finished second in the Cy Young Award behind Corbin Burns. So it was 2021 that he got screwed.
Okay.
He finished the season 14-10 with a 2.78 ERA, as well as a league-leading 3 complete games, 2 shutouts, and 849 batters faced. Fanning 247, Wheeler also became the first Phillies pitcher to capture the NL strikeout title since Curt Schilling in 1998. So he had a phenomenal 2021. Even though that was also the same year the Phillies had a chance for the postseason and then fell short. That was a rough September in 2021.
Yeah, that was Girardi.
Yep. Yeah. It was also the same year that Wheeler received his first MLB All-Star Game selection.
It was amazing to see him go out there and pitch, and all he does is just racks up strikeouts, and he racks up just historical stats. It's, every time he comes up, there's a different category that he's going to, and it's just phenomenal to watch him go out there. And what Cole Hamels was when he was at his peak in 2008 and 2010 was he went out there and like obviously they sweat, but you could see how cool they looked. They looked like they owned every single pitch, every single inning. There was no issue, and that's what you see with Wheeler.
Mm-hmm.
Every time he goes out there, if he gets in a jam, he's not freaking out. It's kind of like the same thing that you look at with Ranger too, before his family came. But like
Well,
that's just what you get with Wheeler is you get somebody that's going to go out there, do his job, and he's gonna get you 7 innings at the almost minimum, and it's going to be a great pitching outing for him. Usually, most of the time.
I do think with when it comes to Wheeler, it gives you the 2010, 11, I think it was 11, the Phillies 4 Aces squad that we had, where you had
Yeah,
Roy Halladay, Oswalt, Hamels, Lee, and even like if you had Worley and Blanton and Moyer might have been a fifth starter. Like I don't remember if Moyer was still pitching at that point, but that even the fifth starter was like really a good. He would have been a third or fourth elsewhere. Um, Wheeler gives that vibes, and I think he's been compared to Doc a lot. Right? Is he? Yeah, he's the one usually compared to Doc.
yeah, yeah. Just
Where
because of how Doc was with how cool he was and everything, and how
mm-hmm.
mechanical, and everyone said that Doc threw with precision. That's basically what Wheeler does as well right now.
Which one of my core memories of the recent seasons, and I don't remember if it was 21 or 22, but whenever they retired Halladay's number, he pitched that game, Wheeler, and he went 9 innings and shut out the team that we were playing. So it was a very
It's like a two-hitter too. It was like close to a no-hitter.
Yeah, it was a phenomenal game because I remember being there with Jess, Jimmy, my nephews John and Junior, and it was like holy, like that's you know me very well that I'm usually walking to the car by the sixth or seventh,
Yeah,
give or take. I stayed for all 9 and then sat in traffic for that, and that's a rarity for me to be like staying there for a full game. Even playoffs, I never stayed. Like it's just I'd rather beat the traffic and listen to the rest of the game on the car ride home. But there's something magical about him, and I think him being in the lineup would make 2023 and 2024 with our rotations 1 through 4, 3 magical. And it's a shame that he didn't win the Cy Young in 2021. I think 2021 he had a better year than he did this year.
I think so too, as well.
And I like if you want to say he got screwed, 2021 he got screwed. This year you can really make an argument for Chris Sale, even though I think he's a bum when it comes to team spirit.
Yeah.
Because Zack Wheeler would have been out there during that doubleheader.
Yeah, like nobody throws as many innings as he does. Nobody throws, as many strikeouts per inning. Like it's all his numbers are absolutely insane. Chris Sale just basically leads in all these weird statistics that just seem like all these freaking analytics guys just make up year after year. Like it's just
and if you're ducking games, of course your stats are going to be good.
Yeah.
Like if you pitched that doubleheader and if you played against the Phillies when you were supposed to, like, would you actually have those numbers?
He was going down too. Like the last couple of his starts were pretty rough. He only had one good start, I think, in his last week of the season, which was against the Padres, I believe it was. That he was because it was him versus, or maybe it was the Giants because I think it was him versus Snell.
Mm-hmm.
So they had a really good pitching matchup. But that was like one of the only times that he looked semi decent, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah,
and then after that, he was gone.
That would be like the Phillies like letting Ranger not play the second half of the season so he could get the Cy Young.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, because Ranger was on his way too.
Yeah, it to the point like Ranger was if you had a first half Cy Young and a back half Cy Young, Ranger's your Cy Young for the first half. I think he had like in .98 ERA. He had 3 shutouts, like full game completions were 2 or 3. But if you can't go the longevity, which we're talking Zack Wheeler, who has for the last 3 years, I mean, how can you be in contention? It's the sticking point for me for Sale is that he didn't go out there during that doubleheader where it mattered.
Yeah. You needed him, and he was like, "No, I'm hurt."
Whereas
out of nowhere too.
Yeah, and whereas I feel like Zack has played through injury, um, and you see it. Usually, you see the game where you know that he kind of went out there not at 100% because then
Yep.
he'll miss his next start. But that game, like he went out there. He's like, ah, I'm gonna
Yeah.
try to power through. Um, in 2022, he went 12-7 with a 2.82 ERA, 153 innings with 163 strikeouts over 26 starts, and his career .812 home runs per 9 innings was the fourth lowest among active major league pitchers. And just a note here that he was the 10th highest paid pitcher in the NL National League. That's also the same year that Verlander and Scherzer were on the Mets. So
Yeah. That's pretty low for his innings because he's usually around 200 year after year,
I
especially
think
I guess last year and this year.
didn't in August or September in September they backed him off
Yeah.
because 2022 there was kind of the
Yeah. That's,
speculation that him and Nola were getting tired by the time
yeah.
they got to the World Series. So September, I know he missed a few starts, but it wasn't like they had pretty much a wild card spot secure. Not like they were battling for the wild card. Not
Yeah.
the Brave situation where you came down to the last two fucking games of the year and you couldn't.
Yep. Very much true.
Um, so that his unfortunately in 2023 his ERA worsened to 3.61. Um, he had a win-loss record of 13 wins, 6 losses. He struck out 212 batters, 192 innings, and clinched his first career Gold Glove, which he was in contention with against Ranger Suarez. He relied primarily on his four-seam fastball and his slider, which was also mixing in a sinker and a curveball. So I think he actually introduced his sinker and the curveball in 2023 because he was pretty.
Yeah, because he only had 3 pitches before.
Yeah, I think the sinker was introduced in 23 because obviously his fastball and his slider were the big thing. But I remember him like all of a sudden he was pitching with a new pitch, and it was kind of like that was the talk of the town that
Yeah.
he went and learned something in the offseason. And then finally this year he went and signed a 3-year, $126 million contract extension with the Phillies. He was phenomenal. The Phillies pitching staff up until I'll say August was giving him a run. Like his own teammates were giving him a run for the money in the Cy Young in the first half, where like Aaron Nola was the worst of the bunch, and he was still better than the rest of the league. I think there was July we had 3 or 4 pitchers in the top 5, top 10.
Oh yeah, the starting pitchers were doing pretty well, and then all of a sudden everyone fell off.
You let Taiwan back into the clubhouse, and that's what happened. You point to London, I point to Taiwan returning to the roster, and then all of a sudden, like Pitchy just going, "Oh, if he could, why am I working so hard when he's like getting time after time, giving up
Yep.
6 runs? Ah, fuck it, I can go out there and suck."
Yeah, I can give up 6 runs for sure.
But Wheeler's been the stud. I was very happy with his extension. His extension is the type of pitcher contracts I really like. And even his press conference when they did the extension and got it done, he was like, "Look, I know my body. I know the years aren't going to be as long." And he really did a team friendly contract with saying, "All right, 3 years, 126 million. That's what 40, not 42. Is it 42? No, yeah, it's 42 million a year. Am I mathing right or am I retarded?
Well, what now? What was the contract?
3-year, 126 million. Is that 42 a year?
Yeah.
Oh my. Okay, well, it's still I like the year aspect of it. I really like. Because if he sucks by that 3rd year, you're not stuck for another 7 like Nola.
Or like what Ryan Howard was.
Yeah, and I feel like pitchers, because it seems like velocity over technique is the strategy these days, they don't last as long. So to give velocity hurling pitchers long ass deals is just mind blowing. And I think when it comes to the Phillies, we don't have velocity throwers. Our starters are more technique over velocity. And then whenever the hell Nola does.
Sanchez throws hard and Taiwan throws hard, but they're just meatballs.
Taiwan throws hard. He may have back on the Mets.
Well, yeah, that's true. He used to. I should say he used to.
But like if you look at Wheeler, who's found a lot of success, he's not a guy that goes out there and tries to whiz 100 past. Like, he's not Paul Skeens. He's not.
No.
Paul Skeens will be retired by 25 because his arm's going to be dead. I just don't see how you can keep that up as a human.
Either by pitching or by Livy Dunn. Either one.
Something's going to happen. But like it's why everybody keeps getting Tommy Johns. Like, they're throwing so hard, your arm's not supposed to do that.
Well, the guy that I said that I wanted yesterday, that relief pitcher Miller, he throws like 104 miles an hour, and I thought that was the fastest. But when I was just googling about Wheeler getting all his stats to make sure, there was a guy on the White Sox somehow that throws 110 miles an hour. So, like, that guy's probably going to die tomorrow. Like, I can't imagine just waking up and being able to throw that fast and be able to maintain that at all.
And I know we're talking Wheeler, but the perfect example is Alvarado. He's our speed pitcher, and now that he doesn't have command, he's garbage. And it sucks because, like, when he's on point, he's unhittable. But because whatever happened during this season, his speed don't mean shit if you're nowhere near the strike zone.
Yeah.
Or you're thrown into the freaking backstop. Like, okay, how many runs did Alvarado give up because he just sailed it past JT?
All the pass balls and everything.
Yeah, so like any day of the week, I'll take a Wheeler over a Skeens just because you know you're going to get control. The only thing that I don't like about Wheeler, and I, going through his retrospective of him on the Phillies, is he's a pop out guy. And we've seen that his pop outs have become more home runs over the years rather than what was like when he first started. It's why I hate Nola. Nola's a guaranteed home run every game.
The fourth inning guarantee.
He sees a Rav come across that screen. He's like, you better go fucking hit that car.
Goddamn right. Every single time. It doesn't fail.
And it's why I like, if we were going to pick my favorite pitcher of the Phillies this year, it's Sanchez, because he gets them to ground out. Like that's his go-to, is getting them to ground out. Whereas Wheeler's is, I'm going to get them to pop out, which we don't have arms in the outfield that can throw people out. We got lucky a couple times with Casty. I don't know if Rojas has actually successfully pulled it off.
Not much.
Yeah.
Like maybe a couple times.
And we don't have a left fielder.
We'll be like throwing out like Giancarlo Stanton. Very easy to do.
But the pop out always scares me, especially in Citizens Bank Park. I don't know what it is. Whenever they pop out or they pop it up, it seems to just go out. And it feels like at any other ballpark, maybe it would have stayed in it. But for whatever reason, when it comes to Wheeler and Nola, and they give up one of those type of meatballs, it's always the game that the offense decides not to show up. So I think what the story of Zack Wheeler in the last 2 years can also be summed up as the offense does not come and play for him.
And that's basically what happened when Nola was at his best when we first had him, when we first brought him up. Mm-hmm. Every single time he pitched, he was like, he had a Cy Young year. I think it was like 2018 or something like that, like right before they signed everyone. And he was phenomenal. But he basically got the DeGrom treatment, where DeGrom was like 2-10 and won the Cy Young, but he was just phenomenal. Like that's where Nola was at. Like he had such a terrible win-loss record, but he was just phenomenal that year.
Which is a shame, because at least in 2023, the Phillies would show up for Walker and masked his bullshit, and then just let Wheeler to dry. And they continued it this year. Like, I don't know if there's like a level of confidence as a hitter, like, hey, we got our ace on the mound, we don't really need to like try as hard. I mean, you're not openly going to say that, but is that just something that lingers in your head of like, hey, he'll keep them shut out for 7, so if we can get like 1 or 2, we're golden.
Oh, absolutely, that goes through your head.
Whereas, like, it got to the point in the later half of the season, Walker's coming up, we're just not going to win this. We're not getting out of that 6-0 hole out of the second. Yeah. Any final thoughts on Wheeler and our ace? We got him through 3 more years, so that takes him through, 2027?
The window is closing pretty damn fast.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to figure out what you can do in order to obviously win the series before that window closes. But that window's coming down pretty fast. Like we've talked about on our previous episodes. Like we went World Series lost, NLCS lost, NLDS lost this year. Like the window is shutting. You want to either pry that window back up and go all in this year before your best pitcher is going to be 37, 38 years old and running out of whatever. He's going to look like Jamie Moyer throwing 85 miles an hour and just hoping that he can get through 5 innings. Like that's like.
Meanwhile, you got your
do something.
Meanwhile, you got your youthful pitchers that can't get through 5 innings. So what do you're at that point, you're screwed. If you've got all pitchers that can't get past 5, like right now you're lucking out to the fact that Wheeler, Nola can get 7. Sanchez has been seemingly getting 7, but then you've got 4 and 5 that we're not making out of 3 on that back half of the year. So to your point, it's do or die. One last thing I want to talk about before we part ways on this episode. One thing that Wheeler has benefited from, and it's been a topic of conversation we talked about last week on the episode, is JT. I'm pretty sure JT has caught the majority of Wheeler's games here in Philly because JT came over in 2019 as part of the trade for Sixto.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So JT's been his catcher, and probably part of his Wheeler's success is having that familiarity with JT. Well, people want to move on from JT. If we move on from JT, and it's been pointed out when Garrett's caught Wheeler that, like, Wheeler hasn't had good games.
It was February 7th, 2019. We traded for JT Realmuto.
Yeah, so if you think about that, because everybody's, like, all willing to ship out JT, get rid of him. He didn't do shit for us in the postseason. But is he a key factor to Wheeler's success? Because, again, there was a time when Garrett had to catch Wheeler because JT had that surgery, and people were blaming that pairing as to why Wheeler wasn't having good games during that stretch. So is JT, like, people trying to move on from him, is it worth keeping JT if JT's best ability right now is to keep guys like Wheeler aces?
There's nobody else out there. Like we talked about last week, there's nobody else out there that's going to be able to call such a good game. Like Chooch, when we had him, wasn't the best offensively, but he was amazing when it came to calling games and defensively too. And right now you're seeing JT kind of decline a little bit. Like he was the best catcher in baseball, but now he's still top 5. Is he going to be even in the top 10 coming up? Like, defensively, like he can still hit a little bit, but his, how he calls a game is still best of the best. Like he's able, like he's the reason why I believe he caught for Lorenzen when he threw the no-hitter. He got
Sanchez's Sanchez's first full game shutout too, right?
Yeah, like he's got all these people to look phenomenal and be able to get them to where they need to be in order to cash these mega checks out. So, yeah, unfortunately, his defense is going to decline, but you have to be able to keep him in there and hope that his ability to call a game is still going to be
outweighs the negatives, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's true. I think the postseason, like, he was a consistent batter. He wasn't the greatest. And to be honest, when you've got Bryce, Trey, Casty, Schwarber, and Bohm was even like one of the top tier guys hitting this year, it's okay if JT's not the best hitter on the team if he's calling those games and keeping our pitching on track. Again, people wanted Garrett Stubbs' head on a spike because every time he seemed to catch, the games just went sideways, and they were like, well, he just can't call a game. All right, well, you're trying to trade out JT after not hitting well in the postseason, but he did get our pitchers through fairly deep. Like, our starters had fairly good runs in the NLDS.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The bullpen, I don't know what the fuck happened there, but he got Zack through 7 innings. He got, Nola through 7? He got Sanchez through 6 or 7. Ranger
Ranger looked amazing.
Yeah, even though he kept loading the goddamn bases, JT and him.
Oh yeah, actually, yeah, he didn't look amazing. I'm sorry, I apologize for that. He did not look amazing, but he was able to battle through.
Yeah, and there were moments that like JT calmed him down, like as
Yeah,
a kind of like the captain of the infield. You don't have that if you with Garrett, and even if he got an all star like Contreras or we'll say Murphy in his prime, or I can't think of any other top tier catchers, but let's say you got one of those, is the dynamic going to work? Like because these guys have just put their faith in JT.
Like even when Marchand was up here, like
who was doing offensively well.
Yeah, offensively well he was, but there was so many pass balls and so many wild pitches that he couldn't block anything. So,
and we made the joke that Topper was pairing the Hispanic people together and Garrett with the white people.
Yeah,
and it just even you can't say language barrier.
Yeah.
So it's pretty phenomenal what JT does behind the plate, and that's kind of why the question I wanted to pose is like, do you think he's a huge portion of Wheeler's success here in Philadelphia as opposed to Wheeler's time in New York? I don't even know who his catcher was in New York. Was it Darno?
I don't know.
It's like maybe that was part of it, but he synced up with Wheeler, and we have seen it time and time again. If Wheeler's not his catcher.
There's only a couple of times when you truly question, like, what the hell did they just call right there?
Mm-hmm.
So you obviously don't know because they have the pitch calm and they're not shaking people off anymore. They're just doing that.
Yeah.
But,
well, I mean, in some of the post-game interviews, Wheeler and Nola would admit, like, I shook him off once, maybe, if that.
Yeah.
So it's just, I know we're doing a Wheeler focus, and part of a pitcher's success is their pairing with the catcher. I think Doc would have said about Chooch.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Cole said it about
he
Chooch.
couldn't do anything without Chooch.
Yeah, Cole said it about Chooch. Lidge said it about Chooch. If Cliff Lee talked to people, he may have said it about Chooch. It's just, I wanted to kind of weigh that in there because last week's episode we did talk about how like a third of Philadelphia wanted him gone in that poll. So it's like, there's a lot, like you're sacrificing a lot to get rid of him. And would that hurt our ace? Would our ace not be an ace anymore? Because now he's got to learn a new catcher because you got rid of him.
And unfortunately with our city, we're looking at the offensive numbers only. We don't look at the full scope of everything, especially when Garrett was here.
Mm-hmm.
Like he may have been able to call good games, but his offense was so terrible.
Yeah, you're batting 100.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You couldn't look past all of that, and then you start seeing him get wild pitches and pass balls. And you're like, maybe not so good.
That's why I kind of tend to believe in this offseason we're going to see a JT extension, if not like maybe at the beginning of the season, just because we went and extended all our pitching staff. We extended Nola for 7 years. We extended Zach for 3. We extended Sanchez for 3. We probably going to get something done with Ranger after this year, and they're all comfortable with JT. So when it comes down to the JT versus Schwarber re-sign, I think JT has that edge. I think Schwarber also has an edge because he just seems to be the franchise player right now. But
yeah, hopefully we re-sign Hoffman because of him too.
Mm-hmm. I do think JT is going to be a critical piece, or at least was a piece of the conversation when it came to these guys re-signing. Because clearly these guys re-signed because they're confident in their abilities here. They probably like the organization. And there's something with the pitching staff where they walk into every year as one of the highest rated. Sometimes they don't show it. I mean, our bullpen did not start off great this year. And they were ranked number 1. So,
God.
But this has been Zack Wheeler's Phanatic Phocus episode while I'm in Costa Rica. Erik's fending the fort down in Jersey after the crazy World Series win and presidential election. Erik, what you got going on?
Just hiding in the basement and trying to figure out when I can come out.
If we'll even have baseball to talk about. Will this be a country anymore?
I don't know. Tampa Bay doesn't have baseball to talk about.
Neither does Oakland. It's already started. It's started already. Well, I got a lot to plug. BasementProtocolProductions.com, where you'll catch everything. We got the weekly protocol that's been dropping every Thursday at 10 a.m. Dace Tacular Mind is back. The episode with Cheever is out there for you to listen to. And then dropping this Friday is our episode with Carissa LaCava and Cava Vitality. And then we also are dropping these episodes weekly. Like, we are so on top of the ball that we pre-recorded this so we wouldn't miss a week. Whereas we took breaks throughout the season. We're now on top of it.
This is not pre-recorded. This is live in Costa Rica.
Sí. I think they speak Spanish down here. I might just be... I should know. I've been here for a few days at this point. Well, that's going to do it for us here on the Jersey Fanatics with our Phanatic Focus on Zack Wheeler. We'll be back next week to talk off-season moves, Phillies news, probably end-of-year awards and things like that here on the Jersey Fanatics. So I've been Chris the Dace Man Dace. He's been Erik Berezzo.
Bye. Hope we're still alive.
Ring the bell. All kinds of shit happened we didn't talk about.
Ding, 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 ding.
See you next week.